So, I didn't think I had to make this video. I technically don't have to make this video. Nobody asked to make this video, but you know what? Sometimes I feel like if I don't just vent out about it, it's just going to eat me up more and more the way I observe things. And it's my gift and my curse, I won't lie. In the world of me being the chatterbox I am, it's the worst thing ever is when you have to have thoughts in your head and you really shouldn't say anything, but sometimes you just have to say it. Now, be that as it may, these are my opinions, therefore that makes them my own. And whatever they are, you don't have to like what it is. That's what my opinion's for. And whatever you might feel on that situation is up to you. I feel I have to address about the elephant in the room for me as a photographer, because I've seen more people talk about it on the other aspect, but nobody's ever talked about it as on a fan aspect, on a as a fellow contributor, but never spoke on the photographer's aspect. I've never heard anybody in the photography industry talk about this situation. Now, for those out there who are not familiar with the photography industry when it comes to cosplay, this probably will not reflect you if you are not one of the many photographers in the cosplay community who knows of this situation. However, for those who are in the cosplay photography situation, you probably will hear this and you probably have not said a damn word about it because you feel it's none of your business. But see, I put my emotions in my work. Most of you cosplayers out there who I've worked with, who I've built friendships with, I've said many times, your compensation is friendship. Unless it's to a drastic point where it's like big promotion wise when it comes to photography, most times I don't charge for my cosplay photography. I don't. Why? Because I'd rather have friendships with people who have the same interests as me in this industry, in the cosplay industry, than have to worry about money. Now, on some ends, like I said, to a drastic point, if it was somebody or cosplay I don't like who's offered to shoot with me, which I will get to in a minute, offering for the shooting with me, but willing to pay, I mean, I'm not going to say no. However, I also want to make sure that if I do any work with any cosplayer, I want to do it to the best the best content of it. Now, it's no secret in the world of the cosplay community, especially whether it's you're a cosplay fan or you're a cosplaying photographer, and that cosplay is not consent. It is one of the biggest phrases that's been said for the last 5-6 years in the community. There's been a lot of big draw on that, you know, and in the community we never had to deal with this situation until it's gotten to a heightened point where sexual allegations have been made in the industry of it. Now, I won't go into the grasp and task of that situation because it's not. I feel it's not positive to speak on, because it's to a point where I feel like in this industry, when it comes to cosplay, a lot of people are going to feel like there's nothing good out of it, and especially for those who have already negative feelings about the cosplay community. Because why? Because they feel like, well, I was never into it, but this makes me feel like I don't want to get into it, and I don't want to be that person to paint that picture. I, of all people, don't want to paint that picture. But how I'm serious right now is, as you can tell, I'm actually nude head right now, no ears, because I'm being true to myself. And this is not Yoku talking, this is Raffinate talking. Because for the last 20-something years as a fan, this is something that I feel needs to be spoken about in some cases. But if you're listening to this, you're only hearing the audio of this, just ignore everything I'm just saying right now and just pay attention to what I'm saying at this moment. When it comes to the topic, in the world of cosplay, we have come to the point now we have to remember that just because and I mean as in a community, whenever we have many people in our fellow community who are dressed very provocatively in their outfits. Now let's all agree to the point. when it comes to characters, whether it's anime, video games, comic books, the way their outfits have, way their looks have been, has always come to a point of very much unique. And in some cases, it does draw in some of the viewers. Now, when it comes to some of the men and females in this industry of cosplayers who decide to either go stick with the guns with the costume or decide to vamp it up a little bit to grab attention, that's completely fine. I personally feel like when cosplayers do risque versions of costumes, especially with the females, I've always saw it as a means of self confidence. There are a lot of women in the world who I know who are very insecure. And the only way they feel secure themselves is, maybe doing things with it. Which is why I've never judged women when they say about, when there's always that one thing in the industry about, you look good without makeup, or you look good when you're not wearing this and this and this. I'm the type of guy who's like, whatever feels right to you, it feels right. Let me point a picture of that to go off topic for a little bit. For example, I have recently, earlier this week, shot with a very nice woman named Madison. I won't reveal her last name. In fact, I won't give too much detail, but I shot with her. Some of the photos I have posted, but I've showed her very incognito, out of her respect, because she agreed that some of the photos that does not show her face, she has no problem with me posting. But here's the issue. Excuse me. She has very much low standards and insecurity. She's very, very insecure. And while, of course, if you met Madison, you would say she is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen. And it grabbed my attention to know I really wanted to shoot with her. In fact, most of the people I've talked to, my fellow friends, models, and photographers, have all agreed she is very attractive. But she doesn't see that. And I've known a lot of cosplayers who are exactly like her. It's hard to get that through them to understand that beauty is within deep, or looking as simple as looking in the mirror. But again, sometimes it's a bit more we can chew. And sometimes the winning streak, when you can win them over, sometimes you can't. It's one of the many reasons why I love being a photographer. There's a photographer named Michael Sasser, who I've mentioned many times, who I've seen on his YouTube videos, who does very much boudoir. And if you watch his videos, it's the same reason why I do my photography, whether it's cosplay or boudoir or fashion. But most of the time, I like working with newcomers who are insecure with themselves, who want to show proof that they're attractive in the sense. It's the same reason, because the best way to show it to them is by letting them express it themselves and showing them the afterlooks of it. Now, with her, it wasn't a winning situation, sadly. And that's something in a more emotional, personal situation that she has to figure out herself. But there have been many times I've had many women I've shot with who realize they're very attractive, and they've told me it's because of my work they feel more beautiful with themselves, and I love it. It's one of the best feelings in the world, is when you hear a woman who feels beautiful about themselves because of that. Now, not to go back off topic, when it comes to cosplay in that sense of it, I've always felt the women who wear the most riskier costumes, whether it's a swimsuit or a slit dress or something as sexy revealing their bodies like that in a costume, I always felt that was the half reason why they do it. To provocative themselves to a point to say, hey, I feel good about myself, so I'm going to look like this, and at the same time, show tribute to a character I love. And in that same sense of it, unfortunately, many people have confused that with being different, as in being drawing attention in the sexuality. That's where cosplay is not consent comes through. It's more of us saying in the community, because you can look, it's basically, to put it more bluntly, actually, the lyrics to the theme song to the Bella Twins says it best. You can look, but you can't touch. That's exactly what cosplay is not consent is, completely, bar none. You can look, but you can't touch. You can admire, but you can't touch. No grabbing, no fondling, no slapping, on any parts of the women's revealed bodies or their costumes without their permission. It is a disrespectful and very lewd situation. Just because these women, and it's not like the whole thing of just because I dress like a slut means I don't want you to. No, it's more of the sense it's different in the cosplay community, where it's different in the basic modern society when women dress that way. It's completely different in cosplay. You don't see women dressed like this. When you see a woman dressed like the way they are in a sexual way in a cosplay, doesn't mean they dress like that all the time. Most of the women who dress those provocative way in cosplays, 90% of them barely even dress the same way when they're dressing in fashion, in normal clothes. They're very much concealed. I can say that. Most of my female friends, they'll wear in a costume a very revealing, like short skirts or showing their butts or cleavage crop top outfit when it comes to a character. But when they're dressed in normal clothes, they're wearing sweats, long jeans, large sweaters. They will cover up as much as they can of their body. Even some of the most popular cosplayers in the world or here in the States all are the same way. From Jessica Negri to Yaya Han to Stella Chu to Meg Turney, they all have done that same thing. You look at their normal clothes of it, they'll wear the same they'll wear basic covering clothes compared to the revealing costumes. And again, it's mostly because of the fact of it's the attractive appeal of it, but it's also the fact of confidence in their bodies. But lately, unfortunately, we've had this situation where fans and others in the cosplay community have felt that it was a meaning of it's an invitation. And that's the problem in this community. Now, going on to that, unfortunately, people assume that in this same sense, when it comes to cosplay, it's not consent, that women cannot be suspect of also that situation. Mostly the men. Now, I would not be surprised about that. We men have been known to be the ones who have done violations of those things. There's been many stories of men who have sexually, unfortunately, done many sexual wrongings to women in that sense of it. And it's not surprising. It's one of the things that makes me disappointed as a gender myself of it. But unfortunately, it's natural what goes on in society. The only way that can change is if our men in the society as a whole change on that. And only a few good men, including myself, has been able to keep that in the forefront. I look at it myself as me being an endangered species of one of the few men that's not of that sense. But recently, people have been not realizing the fact until now, women don't have any excuses either. There are women who unfortunately have also been the type of people who are unfortunately being that same way when it comes to sexuality of cosplay is not consent. And that's what the topic is today. Now, a lot of people out there are going to say, well, you're going to talk about it, aren't you? And about this whole thing of MomoKun cancer, right? I unfortunately, that's what this is about. There's a cosplayer that I've known about, I've heard about for many times, many years of it. And the only reason why I partly didn't want to say her name at one point was because I didn't want to drive her attention. I don't want her to get a lot of attention off of it. But you know what? In some cases, I feel that it's where to know who the assailant is, because I don't look at her as a cosplayer. For many years, while I've been a fan of this community, I have known the existence of MomoKun, aka Mariah Mallad. And while it is known in the community, there's a lot of people who have been fans and friends with her in this community. There has been a lot of problems in that situation with her, because at one point in the community, we've never had these situations. First off, drug use of it. I think that was one of the situations that she was responsible for, was weight situations, body shaming of some sorts. Now, if you've not seen MomoKun, I'm pretty sure you'll probably see pictures of her if you Google her. So I have a list here from one of the cosplayers who basically had stated like a list of many things she's done. And because of these things, most of them that I have looked about really didn't grab my attention. I have nothing against plus size cosplayers, nothing against that whatsoever. You got your body, you flaunt that body. But these are recurring situations that made me say, you know, go for it. Now I'm going to go through this list from down to up. First off, she talks about body positivity, but is a massive shit poster about it, which basically means being a hypocrite in a sense. She got surgery for herself, lied about it while continually shaming body others on that, which is terribly wrong. Copied cosplay directly from several other people's art and claimed it as her own idea. Now, this is what I want to stop right here where she's talking on this case of it, because there is a picture online that many people have tossed around where she has basically has been known for stealing other people's ideas and not giving them credit. For example, there's an OC character that she's created, that she says she's created. She's shown pictures of her in that OC, and what's worse is the original creator has not been given credit, nor has she even given any profit to that character. And she's done it not once, but twice. And then when the creator mentions to her that you have stolen her idea, she goes so far to the point where she will literally delete and block that person. Now, she's done this not only with costumes and outfits, she's even done it with posing and locations. Now, that part really just me messed up. As a photographer, that really has me upset, because it's okay to have ideas when it comes to shooting in that sense of it, but when you go so far as you're trying to copy exactly of that person in that sense of it, when it comes to photography, that's just wrong. And then what's even worse is one of the outfits and slogans she's stolen. There's even one point where apparently one of the costumes that's done by a bigger name company, she's asked to make a ripoff of that costume, which is really, really wrong. So that's one of the many things that I really find offensive in the sense of it. You never always show credit to where it's due. If someone makes your costume, show respect by making sure they know that it's their costume. Don't ever say that it's your own design, because you're only making things worse in that sense of it. It's a disrespectful situation. She's, let's see, locked cats in rooms filled with chemicals from making cosplays. Apparently there's video documentation of that. She has a Patreon. She collects them and has not fulfilled the awards since last year. Now, for those who don't know, most of the cosplayers, again, same ones that I mentioned before, who they'll wear a lewd cosplay, but they'll be very much modest in the real life world. To help finance for their costumes, it's not a cheap thing. Making those revealing costumes, and sometimes the more detailed ones, are not cheap. And in some cases, they need a little bit of money. And it's completely fine. So what cosplayers have done is there's a platform, campaign platform website called Patreon, which is a website that most of the cosplayers have used to get funds, where fans can sign up for a subscription service, and they want to donate from pledge from either between $1 to $300,000 and $500,000, and with the money, that money goes to the person, the cosplayer, and to help fund for their outfits and cases. And in some cases, as a reward for that, the cosplayers will do specific shoots, video behind the scenes, chat with the cosplaying fans, have exclusive videos, things like that. Now, there are many others in the Patreon outside of the cosplay community. There's a few cosplaying photographers that are in the community. I know Martin Wong and Beathy Photography are two examples of that. Then there's also, like I said, there's plenty cosplayers. And most of the time, those cosplayers who are more confident doing risque costumes will do what's called lewds. Now, lewds is basically is the regular term for this lewd stuff, risque stuff. But we use it as a term to say that we're doing like risque costumes that are for the sexual attention appeal of it, with no worries of sexual cosplay consent. with this shoot, with these shoots that go on in there, available digitally, some cosplayers do it with costumes, some do it with non-costumes and just basic clothing. But either way, they get rewarded for that. Now, MomoKun supposedly has a Patreon herself that she's supposed to be in some cases. Her lewds, I've seen some of her lewds. Her lewds are really pornographic to the point where, you don't see genitalia, but you do see positionings that's similar to the direction of pornographic. And apparently she's not been fulfilling those rewards to the fans who have been pledging her since last year. So there's another issue. She's collected money donated to help hurricane victims and never even donated it and kept it for herself. Apparently there was a she tried to get money for hurricane victims and never really money. Apparently she also has been racist at times. This is the one that really drew my line. Apparently she made Asian stereotypical sounds, ching ching chong, at Asian cosplayers on video, and she has said the N-word plenty of times online. This one really, really, really got me. I am a man who has respect for races, and people don't know this. At one point, I am pretty much a mixture of both Martin Luther King and Malcolm X, if you know me. On one end, I am the guy who's like, you know what? Some of you white people ain't as bad as you are. On the other hand, I'm just like, you white people, sometimes y'all don't understand some things. I got to be the black guy to be there and say something. But I've never been the hard ass on that. Now, I've known in society when it comes to the N-word, it's a situation to the point of it. Now, personally for me, I've never used it. Never used it. Early in my musical career, for those who followed me from my music career, at one point I did use it, but I stopped even then. Most of the time, you mostly see me hear dude. I've not used the N-word since for the longest years, because I feel there's no appropriate situation to use that word in any sense of it when nothing comes for that word. That word came from a bad situation, that came from a bad derogatory of it. Even if we tried to bring that word to a positive and bring it power, it's not going to change anything. It's still going to be at that point. And the more we give it power, the more it's going to come to the point, it's going to overflow to the point we are right now, where the society of people outside of color is like, why can't we say the word? I have heard over and over and over from people who have stated that they wonder why is it that we can say the word but they can't. I'm pretty sure many of you guys saw the video from one of the concerts Kendrick Lamar did. He had some people come on stage and sing his music, and one of the persons who sung his song was a southern white girl, and she sung the N-word, and Kendrick had to stop her several times because she said the N-word, and she was saying, well, you wrote the words, I'm just writing the words of it. Now, here's the double-edged sword of that situation before I go back to this topic. One, Kendrick is at fault. I'm sorry. I love his music. I think he's one of the most powerful guys who's spoken the most, very dedicated in music, in hip-hop, no matter what. He has spoken as much as I know he is respected. For Nas, one of my favorite rappers, to give him a cosign as much as J. Cole, that's a big thing. He is truly one of the most respected and the most talented and artistic artists out there so far. It makes sense for a kid from Compton, to be as cool as he is and be as talented he is. I first met Kendrick when he just got signed to Interscope, and he was still doing a TDE mini tour, and he came to Toledo and performed on my campus, and I was on the front row. That was the best day of my life, was when I saw that. And not a lot of people. Now, you go to a Kendrick concert, there are football stadiums of fans going to see him. It's hard enough to get a front row seat to see him. And I remember that from years ago. This was 7-8 years ago, after he got his deal. But, my brother, if I can say something, and I say this with every rapper in the industry right now, we got to stop using the N-word, because you have to understand, not every fan is going to be black. We can't use the excuse of, oh, well, you know what? They're the ones that listen to music. They don't have to listen to the music if they don't want to hear the N-word. Bullshit. If the rappers have the art power to show their lyrics and know that every person's going to put every word to say in the music of it, don't you think they're going to take every word seriously too? It's that simple. Especially when you use the N-word in a very catchy song. And I've known a couple of songs that's like that. Perfect example. Back in the early 90s, I remember there was a song from Jay-Z called Jigga My Nigga. Literally, that was the name of the song. Now, do you think for a second if that song was here today, played this year today, white people would not say that word? Hell yeah, they would say that word. It's too catchy. The same can be said for every lyric out there. And you know what? It's going to be a hard time in hell for black people in the rap industry to not realize that. That's sad. It's sad but true. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm not saying that it's not wrong and we should stop it. I'm just saying it's impossible to stop it. You saw what happened when Reverend Al Sharpton decided to commit a promotional funeral for the N-word. That didn't stop it for a damn second. Rappers still use the N-word. That's never going to stop. But that doesn't mean it's wrong. It's no different than committing a crime. People will still commit a crime, even if it's wrong. Because that's how that's how selfish society is. Now, for someone like MomoKun to use this word offends me as a person. I have had many females and male cosplayers with many respect from all different cultures who have respected on that sense of it. But not once have they ever came to me and asking about using that N-word, nor have they ever questioned that. I had one friend, former friend, who thought she wondered what it would have been like to speak the N-word. And like an idiot, I felt like she could be defended on that. But it wasn't until I realized how much of a selfish prick she was and how much she was insulting on me because she was protective of one of her friends over it. Basically like a cock block in some cases, that I realized, wait a minute, why am I giving her the power? Ergo, in that situation, she can go fuck herself. But on a respectful situation, I don't give anybody a pass. And neither does Momo deserve one. But out of all these situations, the one that drew the most attention out of all the crimes that not crimes, because unfortunately she can't be arrested. Out of all these situations that happen, the one that she has done the most problems with, and that is sexual content. This sexually assaulting other cosplayers. This is the one that basically was the nail in the coffin. So, as many of you probably didn't know, by the time this video comes out, early in July is Anime Expo, which is a convention that happens in Los Angeles. It's one of the earlier anime conventions before San Diego Comic-Con. I've not gone to AX myself, but trust me, in future time it will. And a company, I believe, a company that's responsible, a private company, which is responsible for being representations for people of cosplay's consent. I believe it's called Deary Loaf Club, which is a company that's basically supportive for the cosplay is not consent and being, supportive of cosplayers who respect other cosplayers and fans. They basically announced a few days that Momo was going to be a guest at these cons. And that's when the floodgates opened. A lot of fans and other cosplayers started addressing to the company that they really shouldn't have a promotion with a cosplayer who has had frequent, regular times of sexually assaulting cosplayers and fans. Now, I say with fans because there's a video, and you've probably seen it all over YouTube, where Momo is dressed with a microphone. I believe she's dressed as Piccolo or some other character, and she's talking with another cosplayer. And while she's over on a booth near her, she goes over and slaps the ass of a fan, and the fan moves over. And she's just addressing the fan like you deserve that, or you should be happy I did that. That's still not a respectful thing. There is no right that she should have to do that with anyone. Now, it's even worse when you do that to someone in the fellow community, someone you have not even known, not with their permission. And that's when it started coming forward. Several cosplayers from Bunny Ayumi, Swimsuit Succubus, K-Bear, who was one of my good friend cosplayers, Chase Lorenz, Tasha J, I believe it is. Several cosplayers came out of the open and basically addressed about that situation. Tasha Lee, that's her name. Sorry, I had to look up her name. Tasha Lee. Many of these cosplayers came out of the open talking about the fact that women have come forward saying that Momo has inappropriately touched them. Now, I'm not going to say details of what happened with these. You can find them all out online. You'll probably see them all over Twitter even. Out of respect for these cosplayers, because I love them because I respect and love them that much, I will not speak on here about what they have done. The sexual situations and actions that she has done. I will not. I respect them enough to do that. But you'll find out yourself if you read them, because they're online. However, the video, according to each of these testimonies, are very inappropriate, and I would just say they're way out of line. I have known many cosplayers who have, with consent, fondled many women in case of it, and some, but never of anyone like of this measure. A lot of people would think people like Jessica Negri or some cases would do that, but not even Jessica would do something like this. It's very, very inappropriate. Very, very inappropriate. And I feel bad for these women who had to overcome this. And what's worse is most of these women who have done this has mentioned this is when they first meet her. Now, down the line, when you're working with a cosplayer and you come to the point you're comfortable with that cosplayer, to the point where y'all are like many comfortable with each other in the sense of it, that's the difference of that. But when you're first meeting a cosplayer and she does stuff like this to you, that's very inappropriate. Very inappropriate. I've seen many cosplayers who are very fondling with each other, but they've known each other for years. That's fine to their own consent. But it's not okay when you do that when you first meet a cosplayer. And that's the same thing when it comes to all of these cosplayers. All of these cosplayers who are testifying against her on this have stated they just met her and she does this. And if that's not the kicker, ladies and gentlemen, what's even worse is she decides to put out a video on her Instagram, and you probably see that also around the internet, so I don't have to show it to you, she stated that it was her ADHD that is responsible for her being touchy. Now, for those who are not known, in this case, I am mentally ill. Hence why I am very open, very broad, sometimes very emotional at times as well. A lot of people know this. But at the same time, I too am mentally ill. I am too have mentally ill. And nothing offends me more than a person who are being sexually inappropriate is making excuses to use a mentally ill condition as an excuse to say they are being that inappropriate. That's like a murderer saying that they are using their Tourette syndrome as the reason why they kill people. That overdraws even more over the racism. That's right up there with racism as BS. So pardon my French, ladies and gentlemen, when I say that is fucked up that she would say that. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what really makes me in the head so hard to bite my fucking tongue to hear that. Nobody should ever try to use a scapegoat for saying that they have a mental fucking condition to say as an excuse for the fact that they should say that's the reason why they're touchy-feely. I am diagnosed with autism, Asperger's spectrum disorder, autism syndrome, a little bit of chronic depression and anxiety, social anxiety, and in some hints of ADHD. And never have I ever stated that those mental conditions are the reason why I am inappropriate to women. Fuck no. That, ladies and gentlemen, crossed the line for me. As a man, as a mental person with mental illnesses myself, that is insulting. That's my problem. As much as everything else she has done is wrong, way worse than that, what strikes me to the core is somebody saying that. Because 9 out of 10, it will put that same type demographic to every person with mental illnesses. And I have met good people with I have met good people with mental illnesses who I have known for years who would never, ever state that. Ever. So my gut instinct when I first heard about her from other cosplayers, a lot of other cosplayers had stated to the fact, you don't want to work with her. You don't want to work with her. She's not a good person. I've not heard good things from her. She's very rude. And I still, at one point, I was like, you know what? I've never met her, so I'm gonna stay away. But if it ever came to the point she came to me, I would not disrespect that. But now, hearing more of these allegations and that mental illness excuse drawing the line, I can understand why it is appropriate that she is outcasted like this. And the only people I feel bad for is the so-called friends who defend her. Now, 2 of my friends are good cosplayers, are friends with her. And I won't say their names out of their respect. And I will still be friends with these cosplaying ladies. But both of them have known her for years to say that while they are upset with her and disappointed with her, they will distance themselves from her because they feel that she has not changed in some cases because they feel like it's going to be bad of them. However, there are 2 other cosplayers that I know who are still friends with her who have not come out about the situation. And it will come to the point they will have to address it soon. Because fans I know who are against this situation that she has done will not be quiet. They will not be silenced. And it's going to come to the point they are going to be drawn in the corner. And if it comes to the point that they're going to say they defend her, they're going to lose out. Now, in the same instances with the other 2 cosplayers that I mentioned who are friends with her but distance themselves from her, that's mostly the reason why they understand why they have to distance themselves from her. They don't want that bad rep on their cosplaying community because they have a lot of fans who support their work and are saying that same thing. I don't want to lose my fans and friends over something that a person I was friends with is doing, but at the same time, she knows what she did was wrong, and I can't associate with that. And that's the smartest thing to do. Sometimes you got to make that decision. To the other cosplayers who are still friends with her, who still support her, who still planning on doing their stuff in the support of it, you're going to have to understand, and I tell you this, if you're listening to this, you're going to have to understand sooner or later, you're going to have to pick your ground. Now, if you defend Momo, despite these allegations, that's your decision. But no, it's going to be the consequences for you and your fan base. It might come to the point your fan base will dwindle down because of that. But on the same time of that situation, if you distance yourself from the fans, from her in that situation, the case of it, you might get a lot more respect than her. And that's the one thing that you have to understand. That's your decision. I'll be a fan of yours in my case of it because one of the cosplayers I know I'm a fan of, but I do feel bad the fact that they still associate with her. But you can't change a friendship that's happened personally over somebody for years because, like one of the cosplayers stated that that Momo had one point in her perspective has done good things for her. She's helped her with her husband. She's helped her when it came to money situations. And I'm not saying Momo's a terrible person. when it comes to her friendship with these cosplayers. I'm not stating it either. But when it comes to your credibility and what you've done for this community, it's going to come out. And it's going to come to the point you're going to have to, it's going to have to fix you. Now, as of right now, how people are feeling, they don't want her. The community does not want her. Because she keeps making these mistakes over and over and over. And what's worse, as of right now that I'm doing this, a public apology has not been made. Not one. And that tells you right there, it's sad that she feels that she does not, is not entitled to giving one to the community and the victims. And that's selfishness in its whole self. And that selfishness only makes it a bigger target on your back. So, ladies and gentlemen, as of my standing, when it comes to Momo, especially when it comes to the sexual assaults, the blaming actions, the racism, and the blaming actions on ADHD, those are the three lines that draw the sand for me and MomoKun. Now, for those out there who are supportive of MomoKun, whether you want to do it because you feel like you have some white knight entitlement, or you are friends with her and you've known her to know not that she is not that type of person. Like I said, I am not one to judge your friendship with her. But you do need to understand what she is on the line for. What is on the line on her situation that's making her look this way. And all I can say is, if you're still associating with someone like her, be careful. Just be careful. Because at the end of the day, it's your decision. And as I mentioned for many people before, no one has the right to take away your opinion or your decision of things. None. But at the end of the day, it's your decision. Most of these cosplayers who are still friends with her, I will still continue to be friends and support them. But just know, when it comes to that line in the sand with her, with Momo and them, don't expect me to follow you over that sand. That's not my thing. So, that was what I wanted to address today's episode. I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer with today's episode on the show as a comeback when it comes to this situation. But unfortunately, I just felt like it needed to happen because in this community that I love and I cosplay it, this year especially, I have had much gaining respect and much treasure in this, and a lot. I won't lie. There have been a few moments in this community that unfortunately I have lost out in. For example, 2 of my shoots in Kalasakon weren't as good as they are, but at least one of the cosplayers was nice enough to say that they were willing to work with me again despite that. But one of the other cosplayers, unfortunately, due to some miscommunication of things, well, let's just say we're no longer shooting together. She's already made that stipulation. But that's completely understanding. I love this cosplay community. It has helped me break out from my social problems for so long. And while I don't go to a lot of cons like I used to, in this sense of it, in this case, it's been one of the best things to happen for me for the last 10 years. And as of right now, that's never going to change me on that for any year of it, Kalasakon, like especially for Kalasakon. But as of right now, like I said, I can understand why a lot of people are. This year, I've noticed more decline of people going to a lot of conventions now than most often. It's disappointing because of money, but at the same time, that's understanding of the case of it. My only hope is that I can still be able to accomplish what I said I would do. And for 3 years. And by the way, I might as well bring this up. A lot of people out there, well, not a lot of people, but some people out there, at least, thank you to the little people who at least voted on my ballot on my Twitter. I mentioned to you on Twitter for you guys, which convention should I try to go to for next year? Because like I said many times, every 3 years after I go to a convention, I wait till 3 more years to get to the point where I can do another convention. So last convention I went to was New York Comic Con, which was 3 years ago. And technically I was going to C2E2 this year, but that never happened. However, I do have another opportunity coming up, but I do want to make sure that it's the one that I'm going to. Now, the choices I have made was RTX, PAX East, Dragon Con, and C2E2. Anime Expo is one that's probably going to be for a while. I do know that. That'll probably be the next one after this one. But I do want to know which one in that one. And from what everybody's telling me, Dragon Con is the one that's the winner unanimously. So, depending on how things go with the later of this year, I will be preparing for Dragon Con next year. So Dragon Con 2019 will be maybe a possibility. Admission for Dragon Con won't be a problem. It will be mostly focusing on transportation and hotel accommodations, if I can get them. So that's the only thing I got to focus on. But other than that, I just want to thank everybody out there for listening today to this episode. Again, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer with this situation because of the whole thing, but I felt like I needed to just address this situation because it's been on my mind for a long time. And like I said, I have a lot of love and respect for the community. And if this is a way of not being disrespectful to the community, I will surely make sure that's the case of it. But I just want some people out there to know on the sense that this is a serious situation. So, with that being stated, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this episode, or watching if you are. And with that being stated, I will catch you guys hopefully in the next more proper episode of the Yoku Discusses Show. Until then, guys, peace and love.